Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3735BN. Today's date is September 21st, 2025, and the title of the episode is Cyber Attack on EU Airports. Deep State 16-year plan is being shut down. Justice must be served now. Let's talk about our health. A 2025 survey found that over half of U.S. adults are concerned about how their skin is aging, and 40% fixate on random wrinkles or dark spots. If that sounds like you're not alone, more and more people are noticing visible changes in their skin far earlier than expected. This is why I use my secret anti-aging weapon, and I'm obsessed with the changes I've noticed in my skin. It provides my skin with 5 must-have types of premium collagen needed to reduce wrinkles. Since taking it, I've experienced smoother skin, more elasticity, fewer fine lines, and more youthful glow. Plus, it mixes smoothly with my morning coffee or tea with no taste or clumps. Be sure to grab a bag of Ageless Multi-Collagen now while it's 51% off only at healthwithx22.com and help take years off the clock. Plus, by ordering now, you're also guaranteed to get free VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, a free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free shipping. Once again, that website is healthwithx22.com or just click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech, fake news, the puppet masters, you can see that everything that they've been trying to do to stop the movement is not working. They really believed by assassinating Charlie Kirk, they would have the high ground. And you could see that the opposite is happening. The people now are turning on the deep state players. The people are turning on the fake news. The people are turning on the Ds. And more people are starting to wake up, and more people are starting to think logically. And you could see that the deep state's entire 16-year plan is completely and utterly being shut down every single day that passes. And you can see that all the different pieces that Trump is putting into place, it is making it harder and harder for the deep state players. And what's very, very interesting about all this, and as all this plays out, you could see the deep state, they're being pushed into the corner. And all they have left at this point is what? All they have left is to try to bring us to war. And this is why you could see the many countries, they're actually making it a very, very big deal about drones in their country. Because once again, Russia would like to talk about it. Russia would like to have negotiations, which means, do they really want war? Why would a country want negotiations if they're really trying to start World War III? Why don't you just start World War III? On the other side, if you look at the NATO countries, what are they doing? They don't want negotiations. They just want to blurt it out like, look, we're being attacked. Something's happening. And that is not the fact whatsoever. First of all, nobody died. Nothing really happened. And you could see what they're trying to do, but every step of the way, their plan is not working. And just over the weekend, we saw that there was a cyber attack on EU airports. And I do believe this is probably the beginning of the narrative, trying to convince people that there are some forces out there that are trying to cyber attack airports, water system, the grid, the internet communications. You could see most likely they're building up. Now, how will we know this? Well, this is the first case. And if we keep seeing it over and over and over, we'll know that they're building a narrative, and most likely they'll start to blame Russia on all this. That's where it looks like this is all pointing to right now, because once again, they don't want the war between Ukraine and Russia to end, which means they are continually going to push their agenda and their narrative to make you think it's Russia. Now, as of right now, they're not saying who attacked the airports. Everything's coming back online. But again, this was brought out and people are talking about it. And you're going to see probably a lot more of this if they're going down this path. And we'll have to see how this all plays out. But you can see what's happening right now is that they're panicking, because right now we have the grand juries that they have been impaneled. They're looking at Brennan. They're looking at Comey. Yes, they haven't tackled Letitia James yet. Looks like Trump got rid of the U.S. attorney that wasn't really prosecuting Letitia James. He's replacing that individual. And Trump also called out Pam Bondi. Now, a lot of people are out there saying, oh, wow, look, he called out Pam Bondi. Looks like her days are numbered. I think what he's going to do, and the reason why he's doing this, is letting us know that things are actually being done And to get your attention, he called out Pam Bondi. And he followed it up with another post on Truth saying Pam Bondi is great. Because you have to remember, with the grand jury, as they're looking through the evidence, as they're sifting through everything, it doesn't happen overnight. Justice is not something that happens overnight. It takes a while. And this might take 6 to 18 months. So if you're not reminded of it, if you don't hear about it, everyone's going to forget about it. So I think what Trump is doing, and he probably will do this multiple times throughout 2026, letting us know that, yes, things are being done. And forcing Pam Bondi, I don't really think it's forcing, but actually having Pam Bondi give us updates of what is going on. Now, most likely, she'll probably be making some lower level arrests, and you might see lower level trials while the main trials are getting prepared with the indictments. Now, do I think we're going to see indictments before the midterms? We might see one or two, maybe, but I think most likely with all this evidence and how complex it is, most likely we might see it a little bit after, or maybe we'll see one or two before where they come out with that information. Actually, if they do come out with it before the midterms, a lot of people are going to go, holy crap, look at these. These people have been indicted, Comey, Brennan, and others. And once you put that information out there, people are going to think to themselves, well, which candidate are we going to go for in Congress? And I think this is going to help people along making the correct decision on who to vote for. So we're going to see how this all plays out. But you can see that Trump now is letting everyone know that justice must be served, and it must be served now. Because, again, all these people are guilty. I mean, when you listen to Cash, when he was speaking to Adam Schiff, Swalwell, the others, he continually let everyone know that they are the criminals. They're the ones who actually are part of the criminal syndicate. They're treasonous to this country. And I think people are actually getting that message right now. But you need to remember, the deep state players, they're not just going to allow everyone to be prosecuted. They're not going to allow all the trials. They're going to try to stop it as best they possibly can, as they always do. I mean, think about it. They assassinated Charlie Kirk thinking that they would have the upper hand and they would, start a civil war with Antifa, but that didn't happen at all. And actually, Kash Patel came out and let us know that they're looking at every other avenue, that it's not just the shooter. And we've known this going all the way back in time because Trump let us know this, that there's other people that are being investigated. Cash just now confirmed this, because I do believe what this whole thing is, it's one gigantic operation. And you're going to find out there were a lot of D's, a lot of other people that are unelected. They were involved in this, some NGOs, as we could see already. So this was one gigantic, probably intelligence, you name it. They were all involved in this operation. And once again, like we said before, you don't want to spill everything out there if there are major investigations going on. You don't want to say, hey, we're investigating this person or that group to give them a heads up. That wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. But you can generally say, yes, we are looking at everything right now, every single piece of evidence, because we don't believe that this person acted alone. And I do believe that's what we're seeing right now. And all of this is being prepped for what? To have accountability in the end. That's why all of this is happening. And you can see that the deep state players, they're going to do everything they possibly can to try to stop this. Because you have to remember, they're criminals. Criminals just don't say, hey, arrest me, I'll give up, and that's it. They're going to fight back any way they possibly can. And they don't care who they hurt. They don't care about any of this. And this is why Trump has already started the narrative with Antifa, because he knows that these people are diabolical. He knows that they're evil, and he knows that they will hurt the American public. And this is why he's trying to mitigate all of this before it happens. Now, can he just stop everything from happening? Most likely not. He's going to try to minimize it as best as possible, just like with the rigging of the election. But again, he's going to follow the rule of law. The criminal syndicate, they're still out there. They still have the ability to do certain things in this country. And I think what we're seeing right now is Trump now is trying to soften the blow when they push their agenda. And I do believe that's exactly what we're seeing right now. And you could see the deep state players, the fake news, the far left, they're all panicking over this because once again, they're losing their grip. You have to remember, these individuals have always been the minority. They've been the minority in this country. The fake news, the late TV, late night TV shows, the D's, they actually built it up to make you think they were the majority. And what's happening right now, and this is why these criminals are going to get crazier and crazier and crazier as time goes on, is because people are starting to recognize that they were never the majority and they do not control the narrative and they no longer have the ability to force us into doing things we don't want to do, which means when they don't have that ability anymore, they get angry, they get pissed off, and they're going to push back with everything that they have. And this is why you see all these different shootings now. This is why you see them going out and going to a country club and shooting. I think there was a wedding going on there. This is why you see them shooting into an ABC building. This is why you see all of this happening right now, because they're becoming unhinged. They're realizing that, wait a minute, they told us that we were a special group. Wait a minute, they told us we were, protected. All of that's falling apart around them, which means these people are going to get crazier and crazier as time goes on. And when you look at Jimmy Kimmel, you could see that the deep state players, they don't like what's going on, because you have to remember, all of this is their propaganda. And they've been using this propaganda for a very long time. And now they're losing the propaganda. Without the propaganda, how do you brainwash the people? It's impossible. And you can see that leftists, they've gathered in New York City outside the ABC studios, demanding ABC grow a spine. Now, what's very interesting is that when you start to look at all the signs and you look at everything, they're all pre-printed. Data Republican says the signs were pre-printed by refusefascism.org. Bill Ayers, the Weather Underground bomber and Obama's mentor, is a founder member of Refuse Fascism. Its tax-exempt financial sponsor is Alliance for Global Justice. Hey, look, it's all the same players once again. And we could see that they are the ones pushing this. They're the ones who are supporting it. And once again, you could see they are now exposed. And I think every single D is now exposed. Because remember, they're talking about, hey, this isn't fair what's happening to Jimmy Kimmel. But again, they already set the precedent. They already set this up, and no matter what they say, it's not going to work. Look what Representative Jimmy Gomez put out. He says, I thought Trump didn't believe in cancel culture. In Trump's America, it's free speech for MAGA, censorship for everyone else. Well, this is how you know that these people don't have the high ground anymore. Because all you got to do is you got to go back in a little bit in time, and here we have Representative Jimmy Gomez once again showing a picture of Trump. It says account suspended. It's on Twitter. And he says, well, it's about damn time. At Jack. Lives a TikTok says, this you? So once again, they don't have a leg to stand on. And everything that they're going to try to do right now, well, it's going to fail. And you have to remember, Trump did nothing wrong. He told everyone to go home peacefully and patriotically. He didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't making fun of someone being assassinated. And the question is, why was his account brought down? There was no reason for it whatsoever. But if you look at all the other people, what have they been doing? They've been violating the rules of the private company. Actually, nobody could see what rule Trump violated on Twitter. He didn't. And when you look at Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and Hillary Clinton, you could see that these people, as they lecture us about free speech, they don't want free speech. They're liars. Ed Moakman has put this out and said, these are the same people lecturing us now about how much they love free speech. Take a listen to what they said going back a little bit in time.
Will hold social media platforms accountable for the hate infiltrating their platforms, because they have a responsibility to help fight against this threat to our democracy. And if you profit off of hate, If you act as a megaphone for misinformation or cyber warfare, if you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrent.
And you have to remember, Jimmy Kimmel, his ratings were very, very low. And once again, I do believe he violated a couple of rules that ABC had, the FCC had. Molly put this out and said, people need to be honest that Jimmy Kimmel is out because distributors were fleeing his show. The distributors are not state actors, but private actors. Tell the truth. Kimmel did not lose his First Amendment rights when these private distributors fled his show, leading to its end on ABC. He's able to find a different market to peddle his lies, disinformation, and hatred. One of the biggest prizes from the government is an extraordinary rare license of broadcasts on the public spectrum, not cable, internet, etc., regulated by the FCC. If you win that prize, you make gobs of money and get to influence public opinion. Broadcasters are required to serve the public interest and not knowingly air false information to their audiences, even though ABC and other left-wing networks have been allowed to violate the regulations brazenly for decades. A mere investigation here is proper. And once again, there are reports now saying that they might bring him back on, but we'll have to see how that all plays out. That's going to be very, very interesting. But once again, you can see these individuals, they've been used for the propaganda network. And the people are no longer listening. The people are no longer buying this. And once again, you could see that everything the deep state players have been trying to do is completely falling apart around them. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that there was an individual that decided to shoot at an ABC affiliate station in Sacramento, California. And according to police, a vehicle pulled up to the station and a suspect fired 3 gunshots into the window. There was one person in the lobby at the time of the shooting, but no one was struck. Police arrested 64-year-old Anibal Hernandez Santana and charged him with 3 felonies. Now, what's very interesting is that he was released from prison after posting a $200,000 bail that same day. The question is, who posted the bail? And this was after committing a heinous crime that could have resulted in multiple deaths. But thankfully, we have an FBI that has zero tolerance for criminals like this. And basically, they arrested him and took him off the streets again. So a quick look at Hernandez's alleged X account shows a man seemingly on the verge of a mental breakdown as he posted a stream of sickening X posts, including mocking Charlie Kirk's death and praying for Trump's demise. So once again, we have a far-left crazy person, and this individual got a gun and started to shoot at a window. Now remember, California has very strict gun control laws, and here we have a mentally ill person once again shooting up an ABC station. And what's very interesting, it looks like the deep state players, they were trying to push another false flag. And we could see the FBI, they're on top of everything right now. Doesn't mean they're going to be perfect, but they're trying to shut down as many false flags as possible. Cash put this out and said, earlier today, the FBI's National Threat Operations Center received a tip regarding potential school shooting at Benjamin Cardoso High School in New York City. Based on a quick response by the NYPD and FBI personnel, a student was arrested with a loaded firearm. The FBI will continue to work tirelessly to protect our children. Huge thanks to the NYPD and New York FBI for teaming up yet again to protect our country. And once again, this could have been another nightmare situation, and it looks like the FBI is on top of it. And I do believe the deep state players, they're going to try to push many, many false flags because remember, these are all distractions and they're trying to get the public all riled up. I do believe in the end, what they're trying to do is they're trying to push a civil war. And we could see that their push, it is not working. It didn't work back in 2020. I don't believe it's going to work this time around. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that President Trump, he decided to out Ilhan Omar, saying that she should be impeached right now. But before we get to that, what's very interesting is that the Minneapolis mayor, he is now making commercials in Somalian, which is very, very interesting because we live in America. The official language of America is English, and this should not be happening in this country whatsoever. And I do believe we have a major, major problem in this country. And I think going forward that anyone that serves in a position that serves the public, they should not have dual citizenship. They should only speak in English, and they need to serve the people of this country. And once again, if we have people coming into this country, they have to assimilate to this country. We do not assimilate to them. If they want to speak in their native tongue, that's fine. Go back to your country. But if you're going to be in this country, you're going to have to learn English. And I do believe this is the way it should be. Libs of TikTok put this out and said, President Trump just called for Ilhan Omar to be impeached from Congress. I think she should be impeached. I think she's terrible. She's originally from Somalia. They come from a place with nothing, and they tell us how to run our country. Impeach, denaturalize, deport. And I do believe he's absolutely right. And what's very interesting is that the DOJ right now, they charged 8 people with wire fraud in first wave of Minnesota's House stabilization fraud case. And here are the defendants. Let's see. Mokhtar Hassan Aden, Mustafa Dayib Ali, Khalid Dayib, Emmanuel Falade, Assad Adaw, Anwar Adaw. And these are people ranging from age 25 all the way to 30. So once again, this is very, very interesting. And Trump goes, does Ilhan Omar know these people? Are they from her wonderfully managed home country of Somalia? Very, very interesting. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said, Ilhan Omar's country of Somalia is plagued by a lack of central government control, persistent poverty, hunger, resurgent terrorism, piracy, decades of civil war, corruption, and pervasive violence. 70% of the population lives in extreme poverty and widespread food insecurity. Somalia is consistently ranked among the world's most corrupt countries, including bribery, embezzlement, and a dysfunctional government. All of this. And Ilhan Omar tells us how to run America. P.S. Wasn't she the one that married her brother in order to gain citizenship? What scum we have in our country telling us what to do, how to do it. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. And think about it. They tried to censure Ilhan Omar. And we had certain Republicans completely vote against that. And one of them was Corey Mills. Now, I know a lot of people are like, wait a minute, Corey Mills, wasn't this the guy that was rescuing people? And what we come to find out, Nancy Mace put this out, and she said, did you know Corey Mills was allegedly married in a Al-Qaeda mosque by a radical Muslim imam who was an unindicted co-conspirator in the World Trade Center bombing? The Muslim officiant was also a Hamas fundraiser. Is this why he voted to protect Ilhan Omar? Corey's wife is allegedly Muslim. Is he a Muslim too? Well, I do believe if you marry a Muslim, don't you have to also convert to be a Muslim? I understand the only way to get married in a mosque is to be 100% Muslim. He also has an international arms dealing company, and we made this guy a chairman of Intel Committee on Foreign Affairs. What in the world? Now, there are reports saying that he got divorced in 2023 and it took effect in 2024, but it's very, very difficult to find those records. And it still shows that he is still married. So this is very, very interesting. And again, if this is all true, you really don't know people until they show you who they really are. And when they show you who they really are, I think you got to believe them. And that's what we've been seeing for a very, very long time. And you could see the deep state players, they're trying to go back in time and they're trying to convince everyone that all the violence that we've been seeing are right-wing people that are committing political violence. But again, we could see that the fake news, they don't have the narrative. Now, if there wasn't social media, if we just had Twitter, if we just had YouTube, if we just had Facebook, if we just had what we had before, yes, I do believe they'd be able to control the narrative, just like during COVID, just like during the election rigging in 2020. But this time around, it's very, very different. And the fake news, they can't control the narrative. They can't convince the people that it's all right wing, because most of it is not. Actually, I say a majority of it is not. And they're having a very, very difficult time. And they're trying to say, hey, by the way, remember when that guy broke into Nancy Pelosi's house and he was attacking Paul Pelosi? That was a crazy right-wing political person. Well, that is fake, phony, and false, just like everything else. Amuse put this out and said, the attack on Paul Pelosi is cited as an example of right-wing political violence. What the Democrats won't tell you about David DePape is that he was an illegal alien who voted illegally for socialist candidates. His life partner is an LGBTQ Russian immigrant named Oksane Gypsy Taub, and his home featured BLM and LGBTQ signs and flags. David was not a product of the right. He was an insane person protected by Democrat sanctuary city policies. Despite being arrested and deportable, he was repeatedly released without prosecution or deportation. I think that tells you everything you need to know right there. And you remember the man who attempted to kill the Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh? Well, he identifies as a transgender woman and was deeply mentally ill and suicidal. Andy No says, I've been warning for a long time that leftist trans people are being radicalized openly into carrying out acts of ultraviolence. All of the trans propaganda is about disemboweling, slitting throats, and shooting dead those who oppose their agenda. These people are starting to realize that they were never protected. They were not the majority. The world is not going along with them. And now what you're witnessing is they're having a major breakdown over it. The mental illness is kicking in, and the fake news can no longer keep that narrative alive for them. And they're starting to learn the truth, or maybe they're not learning the truth. They're starting to realize that everyone's against them. And now they're going to go after all those people that are against them. And you can see that in certain areas, the police, the mayors, they're going to allow them to do this. And I do believe this is why Trump, the Patriots, this is why they said, okay, this is the perfect time to say, hey, you know something, we're going to have to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization. And what's very interesting is that another individual was arrested for allegedly plotting to murder a Republican New Hampshire governor, Kelly Ayotte, with pipe bombs. So these people, they're coming out of the woodwork, and I do believe it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, because again, you could see the deep state players, they're going to use all these people to get onto the streets and to riot. And Trump now is mitigating all of this, and he's basically putting all the pieces into place to make sure that these people cannot do us harm. And when these people are eventually going to go out on the streets, I do believe this will be cleaned up very, very swiftly. I don't mean like the next day, everything's going to be cleaned up. It might go on for a couple of days, and the National Guard they'll be already pre-positioned. The quick force of the National Guard, they'll be out there, and they'll be able to stop this very, very quickly. So I do believe that Trump, he's already putting everything into place to stop the insurrection that they're going to push. Yes, do we have an insurrection now? Yeah, it already started. But people are not going to understand that. They're going to, when they see these people burning and looting, that's when they'll actually see the insurgency/insurrection. That's when they'll actually see it. And you could see that there are certain NGO groups that have been funding and pushing all of these people and controlling them. Tony Sarugo put this out and said, State Department severs ties with armed queers affiliated NGO. Marxist group nukes socials. Serious question, he says. Why in the hell was the U.S. State Department even associated with any of these groups, NGOs, let alone using taxpayer funds to fund them? And he's absolutely right. Why would that be? Because it was all part of the criminal syndicate. That's why. Where do you think all this money's been going to? The criminal syndicate supported their foot soldiers, and they funded their foot soldiers. That's what they've been doing. And you know what's very interesting is that today is the memorial of Charlie Kirk. And what's very interesting is that the House, they decided to have a vote to see if they were going to make October 14th Charlie Kirk Day. And 58 House Democrats voted no, and 38 that voted present on a resolution honoring Charlie Kirk's life and condemning his assassination. Unbelievable. Now think about it. They're out there Let's talk about our health. A 2025 survey found that over half of U.S. adults are concerned about how their skin is aging, and 40% fixate on random wrinkles or dark spots. If that sounds like you're not alone, more and more people are noticing visible changes in their skin far earlier than expected. This is why I use my secret anti-aging weapon, and I'm obsessed with the changes I've noticed in my skin. It provides my skin with 5 must-have types of premium collagen needed to reduce wrinkles. Since taking it, I've experienced smoother skin, more elasticity, fewer fine lines, and more youthful glow. Plus, it mixes smoothly with my morning coffee or tea with no taste or clumps. Be sure to grab a bag of Ageless Multi-Collagen now while it's 51% off only at healthwithx22.com and help take years off the clock. Plus, by ordering now, you're also guaranteed to get free VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, a free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free shipping. Once again, that website is healthwithx22.com or just click the link in the description. Talking about Charlie Kirk, and I'm talking about like AOC and the rest, saying he was a racist. He never said anything racist. I mean, all you got to do is listen to his debates, listen to what he said, and you'll know the truth. But again, these people don't listen to them. They just want to continually repeat the same thing over and over and over. But think about it. None of these Democrats could go ahead and vote for Charlie Kirk Day. If you go back in time and you go back, and they make this a very big deal about the Minnesota Democrat Representative Melissa Hortman. Remember, she was killed by someone that Tim Walz appointed, and this guy had no Kings flyers in his car, and he actually murdered Democrat Representative Melissa Hortman because she was siding with the Republicans. Well, think about it. They keep bringing this up, but do you know, and Mark Meadows put this out, is that when the Minnesota Democrat Representative Melissa Hortman was murdered, the U.S. House unanimously passed a resolution condemning political violence and calling for unity. 118 Democrats just refused to do the same in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Think about this for a second. Absolutely unbelievable. And they're trying to convince us by putting out fake information as usual that the problem is on the right. Polymath put out this thread and says, okay, Cato Institute, we need to have a talk. I'm looking into the data source for this chart, which was used by Time Magazine. And it says, ideology of political murders, 143 Islamism, 65 left, 391 right. Time links to the Cato article on politically motivated violence. I read through it, scanned down to a table where I'd like to investigate the source. I click the get data and I get the same table, but in Excel format. Give me a break. That's just sloppy. I get to the link to the terrorism and immigration piece from the March of this year. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. I go to sources on that report. Awesome. There are 17 sources. I click on the sources footnote. Nothing happens. The footnotes link to the same page. There are circular footnotes. They aren't even anchor links that take me to the right part of the page. I click on the PDF. The PDF is only about foreign-born terrorists. There is no check-able data that is germane to the current discussion. I have to say, this is shoddy, slipshod work. I expected better, which means they're trying to hide all the real data. Because there's no reason to do this. Why would you have circular footnotes? It makes no sense. This is what they do to hide the information. Absolutely. But in the end of all of this, the U.S. Senate, they have unanimously passed a resolution declaring October 14, 2025, Charlie Kirk's birthday as National Day of Remembrance for Charlie Kirk. Now, think about this date, October 14th, with Charlie Kirk's birthday. You know who has the same exact birthday? George Floyd. But he was born in 1973. Isn't that interesting? We just countered everything they just did. No one will remember the criminal. No one will remember the wife beater. No one will remember the druggie. Everyone will remember Charlie Kirk. So everything the D's have done in the past, that is all gone now. Just like all the BLM paintings and everything else that they've done. All gone. And look how popular Turning Point is right now. In the last 8 days or so, 62,000 plus requests from high school and college students nationwide to start a chapter or get involved with an existing chapter. Absolutely incredible. Now, like we said before, I think we all starting to realize that the information coming out about the shooter, it really doesn't make any sense. Yes, I know people are talking about trap doors and people are talking about how did the rifle get back together. And what we're starting to realize is that this information, there are a lot of holes in this information. And when you look at the text messages from the shooter, it does not sound like a 20-year-old. It sounds like someone much, much older. So I do believe in the end, this is one gigantic operation. And I think all along, I think the FBI under Cash, I think they were looking into this. I think they know this was an operational hit. It wasn't just, a couple of people that did this. And this was actually organized and it was planned. And Cash actually confirms this. And he let everyone know that, yes, we are looking at many different pieces of this, different organizations, and we're looking down every single path. This is what he put out on X. As the director of the FBI, I'm committed to ensuring the investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination is thorough and exhaustive, pursuing every lead to its conclusion. The full weight of America's law enforcement agencies are actively following the evidence that has emerged, but our efforts extend beyond initial findings. We're examining every facet of this assassination. We are meticulously investigating theories and questions, including the location from where the shot was taken, the possibility of accomplices, the text message, confession, and related conversations, Discord chats, the angle of the shot and bullet impact, how the weapon was transported, and hand gestures observed as potential signals near Charlie at the same time of his assassination, and visitors to the alleged shooter's residence in the hours and days leading up to the September 10, 2025. Some details are known today, while others are still being pursued to ensure every possibility is considered. Our primary focus is to complete this investigation and deliver justice. To protect the integrity of the investigation and subsequent prosecution, we cannot release every piece of information we have to the public right now. We will ensure every question is addressed at the appropriate moment. Regarding specific details, such as questions about the plane that allegedly turned off its transponder after departing from an airport near the assassination site, we can share updates when answers are confirmed. After interviews with the pilot and consultation with the FAA, we determined that the transponder was not turned off. Incomplete flight data in rural areas caused the apparent gap. The entire FBI mourns the loss of Charlie Kirk. We will not rest until justice is served, and our investigation into the assassination will continue until every question is answered. And yes, if they're going down this path, which they are, and they're investigating how this operation was conducted, you can't name names right now. Why would you want to tip off the people that you're investigating? So he's letting you know that, yes, there's an investigation going on. Yes, they're going to look into every single aspect of this. And I do believe he will. And I do believe he's just letting you know that, yeah, we're going to tell you exactly what has happened here. It might take a little bit of time because remember, justice moves very slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. Do I think he'll find out and we'll get information before we ever find out about what happened to Trump in Butler? Most likely, yes, because you have to remember, going back in time, a lot of the evidence for that assassination was destroyed. Do I think they're still looking into it? Do I still think we'll find out certain information about that? Yeah, probably. But again, this is a fresh case. Cash is in charge. We have good people in place. I do believe we will get to the bottom of it. And yes, to investigate, to actually follow all the leads, it's going to take a little bit of time. And you can see the fake news, the deep state players, the Ds, they are now panicking. Just the other day, we mentioned that we've already deported like 2 million people. And this is with the deep state players trying to stop the deportations. And think about it. These are just going to accelerate, and they know it. And now it looks like they're going after Tom Homan, and they're trying to convince people that he was taking bribes. So really think about this for a second. Do you believe anything that they're saying? Do you really believe they have the case? Because again, they're saying this happened under Biden. So why didn't they press charges? Why didn't they arrest him? Why didn't they do any of this? I think Brian Cates sums it up perfectly. Why are we being asked to believe this latest fake news propaganda, fake scandal targeting a top Trump administration official? You're being asked to believe that the Biden-Garland-Ray FBI successfully entrapped Tom Homan taking a bribe on camera, $50,000 in cash. The Biden, Garland, Ray, DOJ, FBI then shelved that ironclad bribery case and did nothing about it. The Biden, Garland, Ray team leaves office and the Trump Bondi Cash team assumes office. 9 months go by. Certain anonymous persons familiar with the matter begin leaking details of the supposedly rock-solid home and bribery case caught on video to NBC propaganda. I'm not sure I buy into this. What do you think? I don't think this is true. I think it's all fake. And what they realize is that Trump and team, they're beating everything that they're trying to do. The judges aren't working. They're deporting the people, and they're panicking right now. And the only thing they can do right now is move to the next level. Let's try to get Tom Homan out. Let's try to get the person that's directing all of this. Well, once again, it is not going to work. And you're going to see that the truth will be coming out, and you're going to see that everything that they had was completely made up. So I'm sure NBC just released a video. Oh, wait a minute. They didn't? They haven't released it yet? That's interesting. I wonder what it actually shows if they actually have it. It's funny when they always said, oh, I have this call with Trump, and they never released that. But let's see, because you have to remember, they could talk all they want. If they're saying that they have the proof, show the proof. Let's see. And we're going to find out that most likely there is nothing there as usual. They're trying to push this. And once again, I think it's going to fail just like everything else. And you can see that they're now telling their people, you got to stop by ICE. You got to do whatever you got to do. And you can see these people are becoming desperate. And now they're slashing the tires of ICE vehicles. Eric Doherty put this out and said, leftists just slashed the tires of an ICE vehicle near Chicago. The tire deflated just as they were pulling into the ICE facility. They've taken matters into their own hands, slashing tires. Democrats of the Party of Violence and Terror arrest these criminals. And that is absolutely true. They've committed a crime now, and they should be arrested. Now, the other thing that's really interesting, and Ryland Givens put this out, remember Mahmoud Khalil, where he was here with a green card? He's not a citizen. And basically, the D's, the fake news, thought they won because he was released back into society here in America. Well, it looks like an immigration judge in Louisiana has ordered pro-Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil deported to Syria or Algeria for failing to disclose certain information on his green card application. Ooh, looks like things aren't going too well. And Trump, he's letting Venezuela know, listen, you sent us all the criminals, the human traffickers, child traffickers, rapists, you name it. It's time for you to take back all of these people. And since you sent us mentally ill people, you need to take back all the mentally ill people and open up your mental institutions. This is what Trump put out on Truth. We want Venezuela to immediately accept all the prisoners and people from mental institutions, which include the worst in the world insane asylums that Venezuela leadership has forced into the United States of America. Thousands of people have been badly hurt and even killed by these monsters. Get them the hell out of our country right now, or the price you pay will be incalculable. And think about it. Trump, he just hit another drug transfer, hit a boat, and you could see that he's sending a clear message to the cartels, to Venezuela, to everyone else. You think I was kidding? Look, you keep trying it, we're going to keep hitting you. I think they're all going to start to get the message, and that message is going to happen pretty darn fast. Now, the other thing that we could see is since Biden messed up everything in Afghanistan, and he got 13 soldiers killed, and the Taliban was able to take over the air base in Afghanistan, Trump is letting them know it's time to return Bagram Air Base. He said, if Afghanistan doesn't give Bagram Air Base back to those that built it, the United States of America, bad things are going to happen. President DJT. Let's see how this all plays out. But you can see the deep state players, well, they're really pushing war with Russia. Estonia right now requests NATO Article 4 consultation after the unacceptable violation of its airspace by Russian MiG-31S. And we could see that none of these countries want to have any type of negotiation or dialect with Russia. All they like to do is report on things. You know, if Russia is flying a jet close to their border, they just want to report it and say, look, Russia is starting something. And this is what bullies do. And we've mentioned this many, many times before. Russia is fighting in Ukraine, and they're going to use whatever they possibly can to say, Russia's coming, Russia's coming, Russia's coming. And when they have a false flag to start World War III, they're going to say it's Russia, but really it's been the deep state players this entire time. And Russia would like to actually talk to Poland, talk to these countries, and discuss what's happening. And what's very interesting is that since Russia wants to speak about what is happening, do you really think they want to start World War III? Because why would they be asking to have a discussion? If NATO countries wanted to start a war, they would not want an investigation or a discussion into what has been happening. They would just build up the narrative and push fear out there to start World War III. And that's exactly what they're doing right now. And what's very interesting is that a cyber attack targeted the check-in and boarding system, disrupted air traffic, and caused delays at several, not just one, several European major airports. So the initial impact appeared to be limited. There was a disruption to the electronic system initially reported at Brussels, Berlin's Brandenburg, and London's Heathrow airports. And you could see that all of this just happened. So are they starting the narrative that there's going to be a cyber attack? Do they blame it on Russia? I think it's too soon. I think what they're going to do is they're going to say, look, there was a cyber attack. Oh, look, people weren't able to check in. People weren't able to fly. And this happened at multiple locations. If they continue down this path and they continue with this narrative and they say, okay, now we have another cyber attack on this country. It wasn't the airports, but maybe it was their water system or something else, maybe in a government office or something like that. And they do this to every single country and they keep the narrative going. You could tell which direction they're heading in. They're going to be heading into the area where they're probably going to use a false flag, and they'll probably start introducing that they think it's Russia. So let's see how this all plays out, because it seems like they're going down this path right now. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that Trump, he was able to bring Confederate General Robert E. Lee back to West Point. Remember, the D's, they were trying to remove history. They were trying to remove all the statues, the paintings, you name it. But again, it didn't work out. The statues are being returned, not in every single place, but they're starting to be returned. Trump now is returning the portraits. And he put this out on Truth. He said, on the 27th of August, the U.S. Military Academy at West Point reinstalled a nearly 20-foot canvas portrait of Confederate General Robert E. Lee at the West Point Library on campus. The painting hung in the library for 70 years before it was ordered to be removed as part of the naming commission in 2022 to take down items that commemorate or memorialize the Confederacy. And now Trump has restored it. And you have to remember, this is part of our history. And we learn from history. Some of our history is good, some of it's bad, but we need to recognize it. We need to learn from it. And generations from now need to understand it. What the deep state players wanted to do is they wanted to strip us from our history so we have nothing. No identity. We have absolutely nothing. And their entire mission has completely and utterly failed. And you can see the deep state players, they're now panicking of what RFK Jr. is doing right now. He's shutting down their entire big pharma pandemic vaccine operation. I mean, there's so many things just all in one here. And you could see, and we mentioned this before, California, Oregon, Washington, and Hawaii, they're all coming together and they're going to try to counter the CDC by creating their own CDC. Tony Sarugo put this out and said, I was just made privy, a whistleblower brought me into the call, to a new policy by Gavin Newsom and his unhinged legislature, where basically California, along with Oregon, Washington, and Hawaii, are creating an almost CDC-like agency giving their own vaccine recommendations for 87 vaccines, including COVID. While they're calling them recommendations, Those on the call from socialist organizations like the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists were told an emergency bill will be signed during the next COVID flu outbreak to make approximately 34 of them, including the COVID vaccine, mandatory in order to attend both public and private schools in California. It's very interesting that they're doing this right now as we get closer and closer to the midterms. You could see what their plan is in these states. You could see that they're going to make people so afraid that they're going to be using mail-in ballots in these states so they could cheat in the elections. And yes, the other agenda is to make their people sicker and sicker and sicker as time goes on. And basically, we'll have to see how this all plays out because once again, they're going to lose people in all of these different states if they continue down this path. Think about how many people have already left. Think about how many businesses have already left. They're just destroying themselves. And this is really going to destroy them because look what the CDC just did. The CDC panel just refused to recommend COVID shots for all Americans. And actually, Dr. Robert Malone really hit Pfizer very, very hard. The CDC put this out and said ACIP member Robert Malone, MD to Pfizer representative on biodistribution studies. The data that were submitted to the FDA were edited. Can you comment on that, please? ACIP member Robert Malone, MD. There is no established correlative protection for COVID, period. Full stop. And stop saying otherwise. ACIP member Cody Meisner, MD. I think that there is an overemphasis on the amount of disease relative to what's happening now. Basically, they all called Pfizer out on all of this, saying that you edited the data, COVID vaccines do not work, and they're hitting them very, very hard. And you can see now they finally said that no one should be getting this vaccine. And this is a very, very big win because why should you take something that does not work, that actually makes you ill? You shouldn't. And all the evidence over a long period of time proves that none of this stuff works. So this is all being shut down. And this is why you can see the deep state players are now panicking. Because remember, they were trying to bring us into the Great Reset. They were trying to have depopulation. They were trying to use a pandemic. All of it has failed. And now the people are awake. Now the people see what they've been doing. And now the people no longer believe them. So when they try to push something else, it's going to be very, very difficult. The people are going to be very, very skeptical. This is why I do believe that they're probably not going to try another pandemic. Now, maybe California, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, maybe they'll try something out there, and their CDC organization that they're creating, they'll probably scare the people out of their minds. But let's see how many people go along with it. This is why I do believe they'll probably try some other type of invisible event, like a cyber attack, because I think people are already now onto what the pandemic actually was. They understand that they pushed this vaccine that never, ever worked. They lied to the American people. So do I think they're going to repeat this throughout the world? I don't think so. I think their next move is a cyber attack. Now, the other thing is that we know that ex-Biden aide Jeff Zients, well, he dropped a bombshell during his testimony about Biden's cognitive decline and confesses Hunter was directly involved in the pardons. Well, it seems like Hunter was doing a lot, this drugged up guy. Let's see how this all plays out in the end. And let's see who was really in charge, because there's no way that Hunter was calling the shots. There must have been someone above him. And do you think they're covering for those people that were actually calling the shots? Most likely, yes. Now, the other thing that we could see is that there have been no charges that were brought against Letitia James. And Trump, he's saying, what is going on here? Why haven't there been charges? Eric Siebert, the interim U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, is reportedly unwilling to charge Letitia James amid reports of the DOJ hasn't gathered enough evidence to bring an indictment. Trump is saying, what is going on here? We have document proof. We know what's going on. Let's go forward with this. And once again, you could see that these people, they are not doing what they need to be done. And Trump now is replacing these individuals because if they're not going to do the job, then they need to be replaced. And this individual was just an interim U.S. attorney. So this person can be replaced if they're not going to do the job. Now, we'll be talking a little bit more about Pam Bondi and the DOJ in a little bit. But what I find very, very interesting is that what happened with Jim Jordan and the Democrat chair of the Washington, D.C. Council. Basically, during the testimony, you could see how these people manipulate the crime data. Eric Doherty put this out and said, the Democrat chair of the Washington, D.C. Council was just confronted by Jim Jordan on fudging the crime statistics, and he cracked under the pressure. Jim Jordan said, why not call it stealing? Why did you create this new category that grew 500% that I think allows you to cook the books? Jordan said, what is taking property without right? Phil Mendelson said, well, that's theft. Jordan said, then why not call it theft? Mendelson said, I can't speak to. Jordan said, the solution was to come up with taking property without right. Mendelson said, if you're speaking to particular charges, I can't speak to that. Jordan said, I'm asking a simple question. You have a classification for crime called taking property without right. What does that mean? Mendelson said, it means what it says. Jordan says, what would a normal person call taking property without right? It's grown 500% in the past several years. I think this allows you to cook the books. Basically, they just made it another category. They shifted everything into that category. And when you look at theft or stealing, there's nothing in there. It's almost like the same thing they did with COVID. They took all the flu numbers and used it for COVID, and there was no flu. This is how you cook the books. Absolutely incredible. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is we know that President Trump, he is now going to be designated Antifa as a major terrorist organization. And if you notice, it's an organization because there's many, many people involved with this. And you're starting to see why the D's, the fake news and mayors, governors, why they protect them, because they have a lot of family members in Antifa. And there are certain mayors that are actually assisting Antifa. Julio Rosas put this out and said, I believe this is Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss, Democrat, taking part in blocking the driveway for the ICE facility in Broadview, Illinois. He was there last week doing the same exact thing. Andy No says, yes, that's him. The Evanston Mayor, Daniel Biss, tried to hide his identity badly at the violent leftist direct action to obstruct government functions in Broadview, Illinois. Absolutely amazing. And Andy No said, did you know that many liberal states give taxpayer-funded grants to Antifa groups that register as nonprofits? In Oregon, taxpayer fund Antifa legal groups that provide free legal aid to violent Antifa members who are charged with felonies. Unbelievable. Data Republican says, yes, there's an entire network in place. It's not limited to legal aid. There are also mutual collectives and deliberate refusal to enforce eviction laws. Becoming an Antifa foot soldier means your basic needs get met. Harm reduction is a surprising component. It not only creates do-nothing jobs, just like Kevin Dalgan have documented, it also shuts down any curbing of drug use, thus keeping money flowing back to cartels. It's not a coincidence that the cities who spend the most on homelessness and drug abuse and poverty are the ones with the most Antifa activity. The money isn't going to those who need it. It's going to the degenerates who spend all day smoking weed in their apartments in exchange for being on call whenever they need to dial a riot. Think about that for a second. So basically, where's all this funding coming from? Well, it's coming from source, not him directly. Remember, it's all funneled through NGO, all the NGOs and shell companies that he set up and many other people that set up, but it's going through his organization and down to these people. Also, I don't know if people know this, and Andy just says, do you know Antifa released a board game to try to radicalize youth? One of the characters you can play as is an Antifa member with a butcher knife. So that makes a lot of sense. So basically, this is organized, and basically they're recruiting. So once again, this is not just people just doing their own thing. They have medics, they have weapons, they have tactics, they have a board game. They're getting funded money. They're funding these people to be on call whenever they need it. And whereas a lot of D's who are protecting Antifa because they have family members that are involved, or they go out and they riot for Antifa because they're part of Antifa. Laura Loomer put this out and said, want to know why the Democrats are opposing President Trump's designation of Antifa as a terrorist organization? Because their own family members are Antifa. Did you know that Democrat House Minority Whip Catherine Clark's son, Riley Dowell, was arrested in 2023 for assaulting police officers during an Antifa riot in Boston? Her son also spray painted "No Cop City" and "ACAB, all cops are bastards" on the Parksman Bandstand Monument in the Boston Common. Dowell was charged with assault by means of dangerous weapons, destruction or injury of personal property, and damage of property by graffiti tagging. The Democratic Party is a terrorist organization. Absolutely. In addition to Democrat House Minority Whip K. Clark, Catherine Clark's trainee son, being a member of Antifa, Senator Tim Kaine's son, Woody, is also Antifa. Kaine's almost became our vice president when he ran with Hillary Clinton. Ilhan Omar's daughter also has been arrested for participating in Palestinian and Antifa protests. The Democratic Party is the party of domestic terrorism. That's why they won't honor Charlie Kirk or condemn Antifa and trans terrorism. Absolutely. And now people, they're getting it. And think about what Trump said. He didn't say this is a domestic terrorist organization. He said this is a major terrorist organization. And now we have Viktor Orban. He announced Hungary will now also designate Antifa as a terror organization. That's interesting. The Netherlands has now also designated Antifa as a terrorist group. And now we're starting to see a lot of this, which is very, very interesting. So I think we're going to see many other countries start to designate Antifa. Now, I don't think you're going to see France. I don't think you're going to see UK because they're very, very busy recognizing Palestine as a state. So as of right now, we have UK, Canada, and Australia, and even Portugal. Now, of course, this is all part of the deep state players. You know, Trump is completely against this. And you could see that this is not going to fly whatsoever. And you can see what the deep state players are pushing now. Why do you think Antifa, remember, they just changed costumes. Why do you think they're out there saying free Palestine? It's all part of the same system. That is what you're witnessing right now. But when you look at Antifa, you could see that Trump right now, he's calling attention to them. Because I do believe they're going to be used later on for the riots that are headed our way. And Trump, he says, we're going to find out how to track Antifa. And he says, yeah, the FBI, the Justice Department, they'll find a way. I do believe mapping has started a long time ago, and they already know how to track Antifa. But you have to remember, they have to bring the everyday person into the fold, and they have to start to understand what is going on here. SK Double Dub put this out and said, you all need to be prepared for learning how much our taxpayer dollars have been given to the groups that have been organizing a color revolution inside our own borders. It's not just George Soros, the huge foundations, and the donor-advised funds. It's your tax dollars. The Inflation Reduction Act and all the money earmarked for environmental and climate justice is a large part of this. The money isn't all coming from the State Department. It's all coming from the EPA, Soros networks, and organizations, along with all the other large foundations, play a role too. The foreign governments involved are the ones I've been telling you guys for well over a year. China, Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, and its terror proxies, along with cartels. This funding network is huge and very complex. When Joe Biden said, through my investments, the most significant climate change law ever, and by the way, it is a $369 billion bill. It's called the Inflation Reduction Act. We should have named it what it was. That had meaning. There are billions of dollars being funneled into activist organizations. The Power Forward communities and a whole list of others have meaning. It's all about to be exposed. Getting the entire web mapped out is very hard. It will happen. It's coming together. This is criminal. Our taxpayer dollars have been being used to fund the left and their activism under the guise of environmental and climate justice, because we don't have a climate problem. This was all fake from the very, very beginning. And this money is just laundered, just like everything else. All the organization, all these different, cover stories of these different organizations and things like that, the trans studies and all that. These are just cover stories. The entire climate thing is a cover story. It's all to launder the money. And now it's completely and utterly falling apart. But we could see that Trump, he knows this. He's preparing the public. He's preparing everyone for this. But you can see the D's, they're trying to shut down the government. And they want certain things. Actually, they're holding the government blackmail because they want certain things. Speaker Johnson says, Washington Democrats are now officially threatening a government shutdown unless they get reinstatement of free health insurance for illegal aliens, $500 million for liberal news outlets and other partisan priorities, totaling a massive of $1.5 trillion spending hike tacked onto a simple CR. Do you think people want this? Basically, what they're doing is saying, listen, you're dismantling everything we had here. We were giving the illegals everything that they needed. We needed the propaganda outlets, and we need to fund more riots. And we can't do this if we don't have this money. That's pretty much what they're saying. But they're not going to get what they need. Is the government going to shut down? Probably not. Even if it does, is it going to affect every single person here? No. Will it affect Trump's agenda? Most likely, a little bit, yes. But I think Trump has a solution, and it looks like it's going to work. Trump said, we passed the continuing resolution in the Republican House today, which was a very good thing because it shows the Republicans want to keep the government open. But in the Senate, we have 53 Republicans, and we need 60 votes. I want to thank Senator John Fetterman, a Democrat, for voting for us. But the Democrats want to shut the country down. They want to open the borders. They want us to stop fighting crime. And by the way, the D.C. is finally safe. They want men to play in women's sports. They want transgender for everybody. And if they don't get them, they're not going to open the government. Just today, the House Democrat voted against condemning the political assassination of Charlie Kirk. Republicans won the popular vote, won all 7 swing states, won the Electoral College by a landslide, won most U.S. counties in a landslide, 2,600 to 525. Democrats must start respecting our democracy and the will of the voters. Now, think about it. If the government does shut down, you know what they're going to show the people? We don't need them. We don't need all this spending. We don't need any of this. That's what people are going to notice. Remember, the Democrats, when you do it on the flip side, they always said if the whole thing shut down, it's going to be a nightmare. You need us. So actually, let's let the government shut down. And I think maybe the people should see that, wait a minute, the government shut down. Do we see anything happening here? Does anyone have a problem? No? That's interesting. Everyone go about their lives? Wow. It's not as bad as they said. Let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. The other thing that's very interesting is that the U.S. Senate now has confirmed 48 of Trump's nominees all at once. That is absolutely incredible. Now, just yesterday, Trump, he decided to call out Pam Bondi on Truth. And he put this out and he said, Pam, I reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time. All talk, no action. Nothing's being done. What about Comey, Adam, Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. Then we almost put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past, a woke rhino who is never going to do his job. That's why 2 of the worst Dem senators pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media and said he quit and that he would have no case. No, I fired him. And there is a great case, and many lawyers and legal pundits say so. Lindsey Halligan is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. President DJT. Now, everyone thought, oh, he's going to get rid of Pam. But I think what's happening right now is, yes, we have the grand jury impaneled for Comey, Brennan, and others. That's going to take some time. Can Pam Bondi get involved with it? Well, she can push it along, but there's not much she can do. What he's saying, listen, let's go after the low level while these individuals are being indicted. Well, yes, the grand jury has to look over the evidence. Eventually, between 6 and 18 months, they will probably issue indictments. But he knows that's going to take a long time. So along the way, I think he's telling her, listen, we don't want people to think that we're doing nothing. This is going to take a long time. Let's get the other low-level people done. Let's get them and show that, look, we're going after it. We're going to have justice. And I think this is how he's keeping it out there. And I think he's going to continue to do this as time goes on. Then he followed this up with another post on Truth. Pam Bondi is doing a great job as Attorney General of the United States. She's very careful, very smart, loves our country, but needs a tough prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia. Like my recommendation, Lindsey Halligan, to get things moving. What we don't need is a Democrat-endorsed Republican. I'll be nominating Lindsey Hennigan to be the United States Attorney in this very important part of our great country. She'll be fair, smart, and will provide desperately needed justice for all. And letting everyone know. See, now everyone's thinking about it. Everyone is saying, yes, let's do this. Optics are very, very important. Trump then says justice must be served now, and justice will be served. And you have to remember, we need to do this right. This is very complex when we're talking about Russia. Yes, the other case is a little bit more straightforward. We just need the right people in there, which actually should show everyone, look, we do not have the right people. Do you think we have the right judges in place? No, we don't. This is why we need to win the House. This is why we need to win the Senate. I don't mean the majority. I mean take control. Remove the rhinos. Remove the Ds. Have the people that are going to represent the people of this country. Once we have that, then we can remove the judges. And then we can move forward with accountability. And I do believe we will have accountability. And I do believe by that time, we're probably going to see the indictments start to come out. But in the meantime, and we have a very long time until the midterms, I do believe Trump is saying, listen, we need to get these low-level people. We need to show people that we mean business. Do I think Pam Bondi is going to be removed? I don't think so. I think this was put out there for optic reasons, and he made it public so everyone can see it. And this way, everyone knows this is what she's going to do. And you can see that these people that she's going to be going after, they're panicking right now. And I do believe they're all going to panic because you could see that the movement in this country is building, and the deep state has woken a sleeping giant that they can't put back to sleep. And it's just going to get worse and worse for them. And yes, will they try a false flag? Will they try to get us into war? Absolutely. But are they going to succeed? Absolutely not. They're going to fail just like they failed every single time before. It might look scary. People might worry, but I do believe the Patriots are in full control. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.